The shore you cannot reach is not moving away from you. I know it looks that way. You have stared at it sitting there in the gray distance, the same distance it was an hour ago, the same distance it was back when your arms still had something left in them to give. You have pulled and pulled against a wind that will not turn. The far bank has not come one length closer. For all of it. Hear me before you lift the blade for another stroke. I have been in this crossing with you the whole dark of it, nearer than the ache spreading across your shoulders. There is a single line I'm keeping for the end of these words, a sentence I wrote down long ago for a boat every bit as tired as yours. I will not hand it to you yet. You are not ready to hear it yet. First, let me say the smaller things. You did not choose the wind. That is the first thing I want set down plainly between us. You did not do some hidden wrong to make the water rise against you like this. Some crossings are simply into the wind. No one standing safe on the shore ever tells you which ones they will be. So you learn to read the resistance as a verdict on yourself. Every stroke that went nowhere started to feel like an answer about who you are, that you are behind, that you are failing, that a stronger, better person would have touched land by now and be sitting warm on the far side, while you are still out here in the open water, straining. But I was watching something else entirely. I was not tallying the distance you failed to cover. I was counting the number of times you dipped the blade back in after it had already come up empty. Count them with me, since you never have. The mornings you woke already emptied and went out anyway. The prayers that shrank and shrank until they were only a breath held over the water. The times you said you were fine, because the true answer weighed too much to lift onto the table. Each of those was a stroke taken again, after the last one gave back nothing. Plenty of people would have shipped the oars and let the current carry the boat off wherever it pleased. You did not. Whatever else the dark has told you about yourself, you have not once stopped going back out. That is not a small thing in my sight. That is very nearly the whole of it. Let me name a few of you by the shape of your rowing. Because the ache is never general, it is always yours in particular. One of you has been pulling for years against a marriage that answers every effort with the same cold, flat surface. You can no longer remember the last time the water gave anything back for what you poured into it. Another rises in the black hours to tend a body that only grows heavier in your arms, a parent who forgets your name, or a child who cannot yet say it. Still spent as you are, you shove the little craft out again. There is the one among you rowing against a fear that has no name attached to it, straining just to keep the small boat of an ordinary day from tipping over and going down. Different waters underneath each of you. The same fire burning across the shoulders, the same shore that will not come. I see the weight the others cannot. The people at your table watch you carry the whole day and call it your nature, as if this steadiness were simply how you were built and not a thing you choose again at every dawn at a price no one adds up. They do not see the small pause before you answer that you are fine. They do not hear the way your voice loosens and drops the moment the door closes, and there is finally no one left to be strong for. But I have been aboard the whole time. I heard the blade go in and come up empty and go in again. I have never once mistaken your endurance for the absence of pain. You are not made of iron. You are a tired person who keeps on loving anyway, and that is rarer than iron. It costs far more. Being the strong one carries a loneliness no one warns you about. Everyone leans. The one they lean on has nowhere left to lean. You have been the harbor for so many storm-tossed boats that no one ever thought to ask where your own harbor was, and you learned not to ask either. You folded the need up small and tucked it somewhere you would not have to look at it. You named that maturity. I name it an old wound in a grown-up coat. Hear the truer thing. You were never meant to be the one who was not allowed to need anything. Even the strong were made to be held. The strong, most of all. Think of the small, unwitnessed things the rowing has cost you. The hobby you let go of, because there was no arm left over for it. The friendship that thinned, because you never once had the evening free. The version of your own face you barely recognize now in a still moment. older around the eyes than the years alone would explain. You did not lose those to carelessness. You spent them, one quiet stroke at a time, keeping a boat afloat that others rode in, without ever feeling the strain. I saw each of those costs. None of them went unnoticed. None of them were wasted. Even the ones that bought far less than you hoped. I keep a different set of books than the world does. In mine, the unseen spending of a faithful heart is written in the largest hand on the page. Before these words are finished, I'm going to give you the line I mentioned, the one I have been holding back on purpose. Understand what it is and what it is not. It is not a secret whispered only into your ear. It is not a private message dropped into your lap because you happen to drift close enough to hear it. It is older than you are. It was written into my word. Read by exhausted people for 2,000 years. Worn smooth by the hands of everyone who ever gripped it in the dark, and it will do for you the exact thing it has done for all of them. But a word like that lands wrong on a heart still braced for blame. It glances off. So first, lay the oars across your knees. Let the boat drift right where it is for the space of one honest breath. You have earned that much. It is not the same thing as giving up. There. Feel how the boat still holds you even when you are not driving it forward. The water did not open and swallow you the moment you stopped straining against it. That alone is worth noticing. You are not the thing keeping yourself afloat. You have never once been the thing keeping yourself afloat. Though you have believed it so long, the belief feels like your own skin. So rest there a moment. Let that much be settled and sure between us, before I move on to the harder thing. So be it for now. Let the silence be enough of a prayer, but I am not finished with you. The part I have left is the part that matters most. The rest I just handed you will not hold if I stop here, because the burning in your arms was never really the trouble. It was only the place the trouble finally became visible. There is something underneath the tiredness that I love you far too much to leave lying there unspoken. So stay in the boat with me a little longer. Do not reach for the oars yet. What I have to say next is the reason I came out this far to say anything at all. You have believed, across a long stretch of your living, that the whole crossing rested on your strength. No one sat you down and taught it to you in so many words. You breathed it in from 100 gray mornings, when the only thing standing between the people you love and the cold water was how hard you were willing to pull. And it was true for a season. The rowing did keep things afloat. The effort really did feed somebody, hold a household together, carry a weight that would have drowned a lesser heart. I saw it. I never once mistook it for nothing. But somewhere inside those hard years, the oar quietly stopped being a tool in your hands and turned into the thing you trusted to save you. And that is a different thing altogether. You began to believe, down in the place you rarely look, that if you were only strong enough, only disciplined enough, only tireless enough, you could outrow any wind that ever rose against you. That whatever came, the answer was always the same and always inside you. Pull harder, dig deeper, find the reserve, do not stop. And so every storm became a referendum on your endurance. Every stalled crossing became proof that you had not yet given quite enough. That belief has been slowly breaking your back. It has been wearing the mask of faithfulness the entire time, which is why you never thought to question it. Let me tell you where that belief was born. You have carried the blame for it long enough. It grew in a real place, out of real need. There was a season, maybe more than one, when the boat honestly would have gone under if you had not pulled. Perhaps you were young. Someone had to be the strong one before you were ever ready. Perhaps the people you loved were leaning on arms that had barely finished growing. So you became the one at the oars. You got good at it. You taught yourself to find a stroke when there was nothing left to find. The finding kept somebody breathing. They may never know what it took out of the small person you were. There is real tenderness owed to that child. But the body keeps rowing long after the reason is gone. The muscle remembers the emergency, even when the emergency is over. You are straining against a storm that already passed, in a boat that is no longer sinking, because no one ever leaned down to the frightened child still at the oars and told them it was finally safe to stop. And do not hear correction where there is only relief. I am not taking the oar away as a punishment. I am prying your fingers off the belief that the oar is your God. Those are opposite motions that can feel the same in the moment. A punishment leaves you with less. What I'm doing leaves you with everything that actually held you. Finally named and finally trusted. You get to keep the love. You get to keep the faithfulness. You even get to keep the strength as a gift instead of a sentence. What you lay down is only the crushing lie that it all rested on you. Set that down. It was the heaviest thing in the boat. It was never the load you were meant to carry. Hear the difference now. Your whole rest depends on your hearing it. I am not scolding your effort. The strength in your arms is a good gift, one I gave you. You have spent it lavishly on people who needed it, and mostly could not repay it. I am not asking you to despise the oar, or to be ashamed of how hard you have worked. I am telling you something gentler and more freeing than that. The oar was never built to carry the weight you laid across it. An oar can move a boat through calm water. It cannot command a wind to turn. It cannot press the waves back down flat. It cannot reach out across the dark and pull the far bank 1 inch closer to you. And you have been demanding all three of it, every crossing, for years. Then quietly naming yourself a failure. When a length of wood did what wood does and could not answer the sea. So the gale rises, you brace, you pull. And the sea does not care in the least how good your form is. Then you tell yourself, the story you have always told. I did not try hard enough. Look closer at that story. It is a cruel one. It did not come from me. It quietly assumes that everything is forever within reach of your effort, that any wall will move if you throw yourself at it long enough, that the only real variable in the whole equation is the size of your will. That is a crushing way to live. It makes you the sole cause of every outcome, the last thin line of defense against every storm. It never once lets you be a person who simply needs to be helped. I did not make you to be the last line of defense. I made you to be mine. There is a whole world of difference between those two. Your rest is hidden inside it. Put your hand flat over the front of your throat. Cover the small hollow where your voice is made, the exact place where every word you have swallowed, instead of speaking, still gathers and waits. Somewhere in you there is a sentence you have been too proud or too frightened to let out into the air. It is only a few words long. I cannot do this by myself anymore. You do not have to perform it for anyone. You do not have to make it sound brave or resolved. Just feel the place the words would rise from, there under your own warm hand, and let it be true in that place that the strength has finally run all the way out. That is not the end of you. In my reckoning, it is the beginning of the part where I am finally allowed to help. If your arms know this exact burning, the one I have been describing, you are allowed to say so out where it can be heard. One word, wherever you happen to be sitting, the name of the wind you have been fighting the hardest. Not for my sake, since I already know its every shape and shift. For your own sake. So the thing stops being a nameless weight in the chest and becomes something with edges, something you can lift out of your own hands and set into mine. There's a strange mercy in finally calling it by name. What stays nameless stays yours. What you name, you can hand over. There is a sound to rowing that no one talks about. The knock of the wood, the small grunt of effort, the drip off the lifted blade, and under all of it the silence of a person who has stopped expecting anyone to come. That silence is the real weight. Not the water, not the wind. The quiet, settled conviction that this crossing is yours alone and always will be. That help is a thing for other people in other boats, and that the most you can hope for is to last. I want to reach into that particular silence. It is the loudest lie out on the whole dark sea, and I have been rowing my own way toward it for longer than you have known to listen. Here is what the striving could never once earn, no matter how clean your form or how long your endurance held. The help you actually need is not a better technique. It is not some second wind you have failed to dig up out of a reserve you have not located yet. It is not more grit, more structure, more discipline, more of the very thing that has left you this hollow. Rowing harder cannot save you from the need to row. That is the whole trap, closing quietly around every tired and faithful heart. The exhausted are told to try, and the trying is exactly what exhausted them. Only one thing breaks that circle, and it is not a thing at all. It is me, coming to you across the very water you have been fighting. So here, at last, is the line I saved for you. I wrote it through a man named John. It has been sitting there in the 6th chapter, the 19th verse, waiting all this while for the crossing you would finally need it on. This is what it says, John 6:19. They saw Jesus walking on the sea and drawing near to the boat, and they were frightened. Sit inside those words for a moment before you let yourself move past them. They were not written for people who had it together. They were written for a boat full of the worn out, straining against a wind exactly like yours. Read it slowly. Every clause of it was set down with you in mind. They saw him walking on the sea, not standing dry and comfortable on the shore, cupping his hands to call out instructions about how to angle the blade, not waiting at the far bank with his arms crossed for them to prove they could arrive on their own strength first. Walking on the surface of the very water that had beaten them raw for the whole dark of the night. Notice what that means, because it is the entire mercy of it. The same waves that fought the boat held him up like a paved road under his feet. What was chaos to them was a path to me. Then read the next words and do not rush them. Drawing near to the boat. I did not summon them to come out to me. I came out to where they already were, into the middle, into the deepest part of it, the exact stretch of open water where no help had any earthly business being. And they were frightened, because that is what rescue so often looks like when you are that far past the end of your strength. It looks like one more thing to be afraid of before you understand. It is the very thing you have been praying for. Their terror did not turn me around. I stepped closer to it. Do not lose what that means for the nights you could not feel me. There were crossings when help was already out on the water. You were too frightened and too far gone to know it was help. You have wept over my absence on evenings when I was nearer than the hull under your own hands. The not feeling was never the not being there. Exhaustion makes even mercy look like one more wave, so do not trust the dark's report of where I am. Trust the word I saved for you instead. I draw near to the boat. That is what I do. That is what I have always done, whether the frightened ones could see it yet or not. Understand that this was not the only night I have done this. It will not be the last. I have leaned over a screaming storm and hushed it until the gale dropped to a whisper and the waves lay themselves down flat and glassy. And I have brought weary, seasick travelers safe into the harbor they had all but stopped believing in. I have made my people a promise, an old one, that when they pass through the deep waters, the waters will not close over their heads, that the river will not have them, that the flood does not get the final word over anyone I have called by name. This is simply who I have always been toward people out too far in water too rough. It is not a special exception I am making for you. It is my nature. You have been out here long enough to finally meet it, and now look again at the shore you swore to me you could not reach. In the very story I just read to you, watch what happened at the end of it, the part they almost forgot to write down. The moment I climbed up into the boat with those frightened men, the keel touched the land. Immediately, The crossing they had been breaking their bodies against all night simply completed itself the instant I was aboard. They did not row the last stretch. They did not earn the final length of it with one more heroic pull. It was all at once just there under them. So hear this, and let it undo the thing you have believed the longest. The distance you have been shattering yourself against is not the distance between you and rescue. It is only ever the distance between you and the moment you let me into the boat. Sit with that. It quietly rearranges everything. The problem was never that you were too weak to finish the crossing. Strength was never the currency it asked of you. All the nights you spent grading yourself on how far you had gotten, I was measuring something you were not even watching for. Not the distance, not the speed. Only whether you would let me near. And most nights you would not. Not because you did not want me, but because you were certain the honest thing, the strong thing, the faithful thing, was to handle the water yourself and not trouble me with it. You were wrong about what troubles me. What troubles me is a beloved heart drowning politely, an arm's length away. Too respectful to reach out, so reach out. Troubling me is the entire point of my being in the boat. So stop rowing for your life. I mean that as pure mercy, not as one more rebuke to add to your pile. You may keep the oar in the boat. There is ordinary water still ahead of you where a steady, honest pull is simply good and faithful work. And I am not calling you to drift through your days doing nothing. But take your salvation off of it. Lift the terrible weight of rescue off a length of wood, never meant to bear it. Stop demanding of your own two arms the thing that only my presence in the boat with you has ever been able to do. The wind is not yours to break. The waves are not yours to still. The far bank is not yours to earn by the hour or the year. Your one task now is smaller and, strangely, harder than every impossible thing you have been attempting. It is to let me aboard. Breathe out, slower than the breath came into you, and let it run all the way down to the very bottom until your chest is empty and quiet, and there is nothing left in it to hold. Feel how the emptying does not sink you. You let go all the way, and the water did not take you. The boat still floats. You are still here. That single breath is the shape of the whole thing I am asking. You release what you were gripping, and instead of going under, you are met. Do it once more if you can find the room, and this time, on the way out, loosen your grip on the oar by one finger. Only one. You are not throwing it into the sea forever. You are only admitting with your own hand that it was never the thing keeping you alive out here. Carry one small practice out of this crossing and into the ordinary days ahead of you, when the wind comes up again, and it will. Because coming up again is what wind does. You will not have to summon a speech or find the perfect words. You will only have to say 4 of them under your breath, the very second you feel your arms begin to brace and pull. Come into the boat. That is the whole prayer. Come into the boat. You may not feel the water change the first time you whisper it, or the 10th, or the 20th, but somewhere past the point where the old you would have quit, you are going to notice that you are no longer straining against the sea alone, and you will not be able to name the exact moment it stopped being a fight you were losing by yourself. And here is what will slowly change. Though not in the way you keep expecting. The wind may not drop the instant you pray. The far bank may not leap toward you. Some crossings stay long. I will not lie to you about that to hand you a prettier promise. But the thing that has been crushing you was never really the length of the water. It was the aloneness. It was the certainty. The whole weight of it rode on you and you alone. Let me aboard, and the crossing does not always grow shorter, yet it stops being yours to carry. And that is the change that saves a person. A shared burden and a solitary one can weigh the very same on a scale. They never weigh the same on a heart. You will still feel the oar in your hands on some days. That is fine. Rowing is not the enemy. Rowing is a way to earn what only love can freely give. That is the thing I came out across the water to end. So pull when there is honest work to do, and rest when the wind is not yours to fight. Learn the difference by keeping me close enough to ask. You do not have to get it perfect. You only have to stop treating the boat as though it were yours alone. It never was. From the first stroke you ever took, in the first cold water you ever faced, I was nearer than you had the strength to notice. You have prayed for years to be rescued from the water. Perhaps the truer prayer, the one underneath it, was to stop having to be your own rescue. That one I am answering, not by lifting you clear of every crossing you will ever face, but by climbing in beside you for all of them, so that never again is a single stretch of water yours to cross alone. That is the mercy the striving could never buy. It cannot be earned, only received. And it is received the same way a drowning grip is loosened, one finger at a time, until the hands that were clenched to save themselves are finally open enough to be held. So let the next stroke be the one you do not take. Let the oar hang. Let the boat sit in the swell and not turn over. Watch the water you feared hold steady under a weight that is no longer only yours. This is what trust feels like from the inside. Not a surge of confidence, a set of hands slowly uncurling. It will feel like doing nothing at all. It is the hardest work you will ever not do. You are not as alone in that boat as the darkness has spent all night insisting. Turn the lie over and look at the truth on its underside. The strength that ran out of you was never the thing holding you up. The shore you could not reach was never yours to earn with your body. The people you have carried across their own rough water did not survive because you were strong enough. They survived because I was in the boat the whole time, and you called my steadiness your own and blamed yourself on the nights it thinned. And that water you have been fighting with the last raw strength of your arms, the water you were sure would be the end of you before the crossing was through, I've already walked out across it to get to you. It held me the entire way. So loosen your hands. Let the oars lie still across your knees. Let the boat carry what your arms no longer can. And let the far bank come the way it was always, from before the first stroke, going to come. Not because you finally rowed hard enough to deserve it, not because you found the reserve or mastered the wind or outlasted the sea, but because I am here now, up in the boat beside you, and where I am, the crossing ends. I have the water, I have the wind, I have you. Amen. Before the quiet closes in, one honest question. What is the wind you have been rowing straight into for so long? The one that never seems to turn? Set its name down in the comments below. I read what people leave there, and something loosens in a person the moment the thing is finally named. And if a face rose up in you while you listened, someone still out on the dark water, pulling alone, pass this along to them. It may be the hand that reaches their boat before the dark lifts.